At any time of change, we need communication at all levels. Because when there's change, it's going to impact on people personally. So communication professionals create a narrative that lets people make sense of what's going on around them and hopefully internalize how they will fit into the new story. Be the audience. That's the golden rule whenever you're communicating to whatever audience. What's in it for staff on this change? The board know, the people who made the decision about the change know what's in it for them. What's in it for the staff? So we really need to find those emotional triggers that will let them identify why they should go on, take it on board, but also how they individually fit into the big picture. There's going to be a new story, and how do I fit into this new narrative? The very first thing to do is to look at the who, why, what, when, where, and how. Make sure that all those questions are answered because staff are going to be asking those questions. The information then must first be sent from the chief exec. People believe usually what the chief exec will say. And then we need to use the channel that's appropriate to the audience. A very useful tool that we use as well is the Kubler-Ross change curve. This was modeled from a bereavement curve where people experience a sense of loss once I'm stopping doing what I've always done. And it helps us make sense of what stage people are going through as they experience change. A nice analogy that we like to use is imagine that the leaders have already gone through the transition. So they're the train drivers going through the tunnel. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. All of their staff are still in the back carriages. They don't know what's going on. So they're going through all manner of emotions and anxiety around where are we going and what does this mean to me. So we have to advise leaders that people are in a very different place to what they are when they actually hear news of change. And the change curve helps us plot how they're going to respond very much in an emotional sense. The first announcement should always be about why change is taking place. And once they make sense of that, we then give out the information about what they need to do. Help them move through the change. And finally, where possible, always communicate change face to face. Any change is going to have an impact on the way that people work, and in particular an impact on their behavior. So what we do is we help companies craft a narrative that individuals can understand how they're going to fit in to this new change program, and more importantly, how they need to behave. Line managers are the critical link in any change program. They are the sense makers. And we work with them in 3 areas. The very first thing we do is train them to recognize and acknowledge the emotion and anguish that people are going through at times of change, and acknowledge that. Secondly, we train them to repeat the core why this is happening, and those messages. Repetition makes things understood. And finally, get them to explain to their people how they as individuals and how they as their team fit in. The line of sight, the golden thread between my daily actions and what the organization is trying to achieve. People do tend to be very cynical at times of change, and where organizations go wrong is they send out information about the change and what people need to do. What they forget is the emotional information. They need to think about the emotional triggers in the story, in the narrative. Our behavior is motivated largely by our emotions. And as communicators, if we can find those emotional triggers and weave it into the story and help people understand again how they can cope with the emotion, then we can take them through this.